so Americans should not value shopping smarter over convenience.
Smart is like,
I think like smart. Okay, what do you think? I think like the big
We
question.
need to define what smarter
Quality,
is.
yeah, like what is smarter?
That's
I
what's
money.
I
Think
think
about
okay. I know like smarter is generally like deals, and then like Anne Marie talked about like
yeah, and I think the
politically, and then we also talked about
debate is
eco-friendly. I think
boils
shopping
down-
smarter should just mean more conscious.
I think the
I feel like that's also
yeah, I think the way it
you have to
boils
define
down,
what more
right, is
conscious
probably more
means.
gonna be like
Like just being aware of it, like oh
should
you
be very
don't like
aware
this
and
company,
you should-
okay, so make sure you don't
and
buy
should-
from
you
any
should
of their
be,
like affiliate brands.
okay,
We'll talk about it with them
and
though.
they'll probably push back on it, but like
I think
that's
that's
not always
that's what I'm
thing.
thinking. Like just
And
kind of
I think
making
that's
more
my
conscious
opinion.
decisions versus just being like oh I'll buy whatever because it's the cheapest
Yeah,
option.
so-
Kind of
Okay.
like what we were talking about with plant-based meat.
Okay, so just making
Like being aware of it. That's what I
making
think.
informed decisions.
Informed decisions, yeah. So like informed, but we'll talk to them about it. So it should not value shopping smarter. Why? Because I feel like in the grand scheme of things, it like doesn't really matter, right? Like you can shop however smart you want, but like it's not going to make a dent in like Target's, you know, profit of the year.
Like boycotting Starbucks doesn't do anything. They're still gonna keep making.
Yeah, but then there's actually evidence that it does do
Yeah,
stuff.
no, it's kind of difficult. But that actually doesn't really make a lot of sense because Starbucks would be convenience. So I think we should kind of also figure out what we want to focus this argument on right now, so we can decide.
Like
that.
day-to-day
Well, I think-
purchases, or
Like,
like
we're
what
talking
type of
about-
purchases?
What do you
Like,
mean
we're talking
argument?
about grocery
I would say-
store.
Okay, so
I
like
think-
what is shopping?
Yeah,
I think
because that like
I think like
makes it.
I think budget and quality is a big one.
Mhm.
And I think like
Yeah,
put together
shopping,
kind of
like,
budget
is it like
and,
essentials?
uh,
Maybe it
what kind of
shouldn't be
environment,
essentials.
because
I
feel
don't
like
think it should
those
be
are like
essentials.
morality reasons. You
But
need
if it's
to
not, okay, here's the thing.
So
If it is
I'll mark
essentials,
second as morality.
they're gonna talk about accessibility, or like we're
The
gonna
first
talk
one
about
is like-
accessibility, right? Because
Mhm.
right, but then if it's not essentials, essentials is what you're spending most
Do
of
you
your
think we
money
should like
on.
Yeah.
So then if you're not like spending that much money, then
Shopping
the first
like
one
it's not
about
having that much of
budget
an
and
impact,
quality.
right? So like essential
maybe-
slash discretionary,
I think not accessibility, but like
Affordability.
and then
like
over
we can that I feel like we
convenient.
can decide that later.
And like, I guess, are we gonna talk about like that prioritizing thing first? Is it gonna be like smarter first and then convenience? Like if there are two stores next to each other and you support the morals and ethics of one, go to that one even if it's slightly more expensive.
Well, that makes sense if we were doing.
Wait. One thing you need
Smarter
to consider,
or
right? When you
convenient.
smart.
No, but that's what I'm
and
saying,
then we
is that what it
encapsulate
means, like, valuing
multiple
one?
things,
Like,
and we
is it
encapsulate
just, like-
both finances
I think,
and we
like,
encapsulate like
more like a
morals,
part of
right?
like
So
a-
it can,
like a value
it's possible
Okay.
that one's
So
cheaper,
it's
but
like-
it's also morally
so-
worse for
Yeah.
us.
It's
So
like
then how do we
saying
how do
you
we
should be
that?
shopping smarter. So like
Like for example, like going to
you should
Target or like
look to go
Walmart, but then not
smarter
agreeing with
rather
their
than
DEI
going
practices, like
Okay.
those go against
So
each other.
value
So,
is, like,
but I think
what you ought to
our
be
goal
doing.
is just like being more conscious
Mhm.
about like, and we can weigh ourselves. Like we
Yeah,
can weigh
aware
like
and
and like
conscious.
at
Okay, that's
different
2 minutes,
times.
guys.
Okay, at different times.
Okay.
Like, different times of year.
2 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think like we have three big things, or
Okay.
two big things.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is smarter? I know earlier we talked about like what's like the cheapest, and then we talked a little about like eco-friendly and like politically. We think that it should be like informed, like making informed decisions about what you buy and like whether or not you support like X company or X good. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Yeah, we talked about how we're gonna focus on being like aware and
Yeah.
conscious.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think,
yeah.
yeah. We said like specifically like being conscious of our purchases, like because I think it encapsulates like everything you were saying, like budget, quality, environment, and like
Yeah.
political
Okay,
like
yeah.
aspects of it. And I
So
think
just
that's good.
informed, be smart.
Mhm,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Shopping. We were like, okay, at first, like, is it gonna be essential things or is it gonna be discretionary?
No, I think it's all.
All shopping.
Yeah.
All shopping?
Like
Okay.
every single thing, like you, even if you're getting a coffee like randomly, you have to think about where
Well-
it's coming from.
Well, I think that like, but when we talk about this and we consider this like as a discussion, we're not saying like, oh, like I need to heavily weigh for like a hot like 10 minutes like before I make a decision, right? But it's like a conscious thing that we think about, like
Okay.
because it's not. It's I feel like it's a mindset shift. So you're not turning it on for groceries, but then you turn it off
Mhm.
for when you
Oh,
get
okay.
grab a
It's
coffee.
just overall more aware, more conscious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
And like
so,
I think when we look at, since we're talking about like politics too, like people aren't just like boycotting things for like their basic necessities. They're also like doing things that are
Discretionary.
discretionary.
Yeah.
Or like
Okay, so I-
environmentally, like
Yeah.
looking at more like like certain clothing items may be seen as discretionary, but some people want to find like a more environmental, like a business that like puts the environment first.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I like the idea of like a mindset shift, and that new mindset, like just to clarify, the new mindset is where do goods come from and do I support that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And do I support that? And then last, like should value just means, are we doing that whole prioritize thing again, or how is that gonna go?
Yeah, I think what's the prompt again? Okay, should value over. I think it's like a
Like what you want, like what
yeah,
you want.
when it creates like a comparison like this over that, I think it is a prioritization thing.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
that's
Awesome, that's 2 minutes.
Okay.
So then 7, and then we can start.
Okay, so
Wow.
7
Oh,
starts
yeah.
now.
so keep like shopping.
Um,
Yeah, I think,
And then it is a prioritize, okay.
and then I think put
Discretionary.
Okay, so should not value shopping smarter over convenience,
answers are
why?
similar.
So if we pull up the intro.
yeah, because they're saying
So,
like convenience, right?
we are
Isn't it
neg,
also
right?
That like
Topic,
But also like
why
a
is
store
the
closer
topic
to you, like,
important?
convenience
Because,
is closer to you. Maybe a store that's closer to you is more expensive.
like the world is
Yeah.
influenced by consumer habits.
I'm just like
I'm gonna
thinking.
define
I'm just,
convenience.
Yeah,
I'm
we
just, like,
put
thinking
empower,
about
or consumerism empowers everybody. So where we spend our money matters because it determines who.
Yeah, the world is influenced by
Yeah.
Go farther
Okay,
for cheaper.
That works. You're smart.
For cheaper.
the world is by
Maybe
shopping
more.
habits. Or consuming habits, actually.
Do you want to split the speech as well?
Yeah.
Consuming.
Do you want me to do the framing stuff and
Okay, and then
do you want to keep it?
we propose
Yeah, we can just
that
keep
we
it
focus
structured.
today on, today's focus should be on the mindset shift that happens when you become
Okay, the
more
financial
informed.
consideration
Yeah.
more cheaper.
So
And,
Well,
like,
we're
morality,
next. We have to
like-
say that.
Like
or like just the idea of a mindset shift, and then we'll go into why we shouldn't have the mindset shift.
Okay.
Okay, so the focus is on like a mindset shift.
And I think for
But
I
I
don't
think
know
we're
if this
trying
will
to
go
have a
into
common ground.
morality.
We can say that
but,
we
like,
should have a
we're talking
mindset
about,
shift,
like,
but it shouldn't be
how, like, you want
so
to do things
extreme.
right.
I think that's where we find our commonality and also.
Wait,
the
wait.
other
You
stuff.
think the
Like,
commonality
it's
should
hard to
be
DIY
we should have a
Yeah.
mindset shift, but we shouldn't what?
But it shouldn't be like
Yeah.
a hard, like
Like,
extreme
you don't want to
thing.
support
Like you
something that's
don't
going
no
against
longer have to
who
stop
you are
shopping
as
at
a
a place that
person.
gives you like the
You're
best.
I don't
Yeah,
think
I
they,
think
I don't
that,
think
like,
they
I
were
think
ever
it's
gonna
like a-
argue that
like
it,
a mental
like you
health.
have to
Like,
shop
you're
here,
lying
you
to
have to
yourself.
can't shop here,
Mm.
because it's about prioritizing.
Yeah.
I think we can frame this
And
kind of
that
how the
like can
last
have
one.
like a lot of negative
Yeah.
impacts,
Mindset
right?
shift that
Yeah.
happens.
And even if you do so, even if you don't support it, like okay,
and
even
then
if you're
key terms.
even if it doesn't create that cognitive decisions and you're like
Value
shop more
is
smarter,
prioritized,
like
right?
you're gonna feel better about your decisions
What
because you
comes
know they're
first?
not harming you or
Like
your
first
identity
choice?
or people
Mhm.
like you
Um,
or just like
and
harming
then
you know what I mean?
smarter is informed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, where do you spend your boycott?
Informed and that shift that happens.
Yeah.
And then shopping is all. Like
I
all
feel like it's
shopping.
pretty intuitive, like when you bank on like shopping on convenience,
Okay.
like money
Um,
talks, so wherever your money
Yeah.
goes,
And then our
like,
two arguments,
it
our
shows
first
the corporations
argument,
whether you care or
A1
don't care,
is
they
gonna
do
be-
things, so they'll just keep on doing the things they do.
What was the thing
You just
you said
prioritize
to me, like-
convenience before.
Oh,
No,
we
but
should have
this
also
isn't a debate on,
defined
like the way you talk
convenience.
about like
Because that
Starbucks,
means
like how
like
they're like losing money.
deal
and
hunting, like
stuff.
whatever,
Oh, we
like
can talk
what's
about how
easiest to
Target is, like,
get.
I think.
Well,
Because I think that's gonna
Well,
matter.
okay.
No.
I think
right
what's
now
easiest
it's hard to
right,
kind of
like,
compare
it goes
because,
back
like,
to
for
the
example,
plant-based
like a
thing,
lot of
like,
people
what's
like
more convenient,
who
it's
sell
not the
Pride don't
plant-based
really do
option,
that
because
right
you're gonna
now
have to
because
go
of,
look for it,
like,
it's not gonna be your
Trump's
regular
government
thing,
right
right?
now.
So
Like,
what's easiest to get in
but,
terms
like,
of like.
yeah,
Okay,
like,
so
I'm
just
always
like,
used to
always
buying
about
this tomato sauce, I'm gonna
Starbucks.
keep doing it, regardless of what happens,
Okay.
right?
Okay,
So,
maybe we could talk
like,
about like this. Maybe
No,
this is
they
more
lost like a
Uh,
lot of money, like Starbucks.
No, this is Target, but like
What do
I
you
guess this
say?
is more response, but it's like if you're like,
the
oh,
world
like it doesn't really matter, but like it does,
Wait,
like they lose.
if
loss,
we-
you know, they like you can face lawsuits.
like if we say this is why the topic is important, right? Like the world is influenced by consumer shopping habits, we're literally conceding the whole thing to them.
Oh yeah, pretty
Because,
much.
right? So I think,
Should we change our focus to being?
no, the focus is fine, but I think
Oh,
like,
the
and then like,
importance.
yeah, the
Besides
world
that.
is influenced by consuming habits, like,
Yeah.
I think we can just argue that like consuming habits like affect companies. Well, actually,
That also points
Yeah,
into the
yeah.
Yeah.
um,
What do you want to outline the?
I think
People-
maybe
this
if we
part?
keep
Do you
this,
wanna-
I think
do you wanna
there will
outline?
be an easier
Just like
path
even-
to.
I think that's
You
also the
really wanna-
point. Is
Yeah.
like a common
Talk
ground.
about
So
We're not
should
trying
I
to-
keep
part,
it
this
even
part,
though we
make
know,
sure you
because I guess
have,
the
like,
point is not to make the most
um,
ironclad argument,
Yeah,
it's to
it's like
focus our
finds, like,
conversation.
polls that you
Yeah,
can
I think
argue
you're
with
kind
or
of
agree with.
okay.
Okay,
I mean,
so
do you want me
A1
to, like,
should
repeat
be
whatever I wrote down?
Yeah.
So for the like the importance,
We have to
like,
put
about
it-
how like many
we could
people
argue
now
like
are
importance
participating
or
in sports
excessive
Mhm.
accessibility.
Access.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
a bigger topic
Like you
about
can't always
conversation. Like because I'm gonna frame
like
it like
okay, think about it like
right
this.
now.
Walmart is
Yeah.
everywhere. and that has
And then,
like low
yeah,
prices,
like,
but they're
how
also
people see the
very
effects of
unethical
climate
and they're
Oh
not
wait,
really
like,
supported.
I think we can
care
hone in
about
on
the environment and how their
Americans,
decisions
right? Like
affect it, right?
Americans, like
And
a
they
lot
also
of them
care
have
about
to
the
go to like
profits.
only certain places because a lot of their like towns are not walkable. They only have like so many stores there. Yeah, I think we can do like access. That's fine.
And then
But
on the
like maybe
focus, it's,
specifically
like,
on
an
like why
aware-
that's important for Americans.
Like it's a mindset shift, like aware and conscious.
Non-walkable
And I feel like
towns,
on the point
so-
about, like accessibility.
Non-walkable
Oh,
towns,
right. So many
mega
people use
corporations,
Amazon, right?
Yeah, like
To,
stuff
buy
like that.
books, to whatever, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's so many other online alternatives that are still accessible to people.
oh,
that may
and
even
not
be
only
cheaper,
that, it's like
you know, and they're
Nestle
not
owns
using, like,
everything.
Nestle owns
I think it's-
everything.
Right, like a
So
lot of there's
mega
like really big,
corporations.
yeah, really big monopolies on everything.
For Amazon, I think it's hard because like Amazon's also like not the most ethical.
Yeah, that's why. But like, people would be like, oh,
But
maybe more
also like
accessible,
on
but, like,
ethicality, like
there is
people who
other-
support like war in Ukraine or like not even war in Ukraine, like
but,
maybe
there's
like war
other
in
online
Gaza, right? They'd be like,
alternatives, you know?
well, I want to
No, no, no,
support
I know they
Israel, so
exist.
I'm going
Yeah,
to support
yeah,
companies
yeah.
that support Israel, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that like what you do is going to be more morally right.
Yeah,
It just means that you're
it can
aligning
be-
more with your beliefs.
Yeah.
Considerations.
So
Okay.
I think access also matters because maybe that is something that's there for
I
you,
think
but
like
it's not
an
there
idea
for
of like
everyone, and
convenience
that's
and
what
like
we're
why
trying
that's
to
good. I
get
feel
to.
like I feel like this
At points, it's just not
consensus, like
always
valuing
available. We have, like,
conven-
a minute and a half
like
left.
Yeah.
Just for
being
an
smart
A2.
over convenience, like that's
Maybe
just
we
like
wanna
a
split it
like a
like we had
mindset shift
last
you
time.
should
It's like
have.
you do flop.
But like if you,
I can do this, and then you can do
Like,
argument two in conclusion.
I don't think this applies to the most extreme circumstances where like there's no Amazon, there's one store.
Yeah.
Our
There's
second
nothing.
argument
Like
is that
there-
we should
there-
consider-
then there's no choice to be made. There's nothing to prioritize over. You don't have an
I think the
alternative.
second argument should be that it's like actually not more it's not more ethical to do this.
It doesn't really matter. There's
Because
no
some
point
people will
behind it.
still side with like the bad guy.
Mhm.
Actually, a
people's-
lot of people probably.
People's beliefs also aren't
Yeah,
necessarily
exactly.
the most ethical or best. So
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't really have
Or like
any-
nothing changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's not a change in it.
Yeah.
Okay, and like I feel like the point is like, oh, nothing changes, right? That's what they're saying, right? But like that,
Oh,
if you
no,
continue
you're
to
so evil
perpetuate
for
that
that.
mindset, right? Like nothing will change, but if you actually make a difference, you have a mindset shift, and more people do that.
Okay.
Like, we don't know what
so
the
even
impact
even
of
but, like,
mindset,
but,
like even if there's a
ignoring-
mindset shift, if you still side with the bad guy,
You gotta
you're
look
still
at
doing a
it,
bad
you gotta
thing.
think about it in
ignore-
terms of
but-
Americans specifically, and then
Yeah.
go heavily into how American politics are a lot farther
Like,
right than global
There you
politics
go.
are.
That's good.
Ignore
Write that
that.
down.
Ignore
Write that
that.
down.
Because like independent of all of that, there's still like budget, like
Yeah, yeah.
like
And
being
quality,
able to
too.
consider like budget and quality is like they're inherently good for
Yeah.
Americans.
Can you prep
yeah.
the conclusion?
And
Okay,
even
that's-
if you have
yeah.
different, okay.
Yeah, that's
And
all.
even if you have like different political beliefs, like
7
people still
minutes,
care about
guys.
budget, quality.
You are writing.
I'm not speaking first.
Okay.
3 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
3 minutes. No more sharing.
We are the affirmative team, and today we're going to be exploring the topic that Americans should value shopping smarter over convenience. And so, firstly, we believe that this topic is important today for a couple of reasons. Just firstly, like a lot of current events that are going on in America, there's a lot of people are participating in various boycotts. Many people have been boycotting Target or Starbucks, and also a lot of people are seeing like the disastrous effects of climate change. Like, just consider the LA wildfires, or just consider the LA wildfires. So more people are like caring about the environment and how their choices, especially like financial consumer choices, affect the environment. And finally, people also care about like how the quality of the goods they purchase, the financial considerations in purchasing goods, and that all is affected by like shopping smarter versus like valuing convenience. And we propose that we are going to focus on our conversation on as a consumer, becoming more aware and conscious about the decisions you make, about the places you buy from, and just an overall mindset shift in taking greater considerations and looking like more closer at the places you buy from. And just quickly on key terms, we define value as basically over a different option. In this case, shopping smarter over convenience. And shopping smarter and shopping in this discussion includes like essential and discretionary goods, and convenience is just like little effort or difficulty. And shopping smarter, like becoming aware either financially, politically, environmentally, in the quality of the goods you are buying.
Yeah, and just to elaborate further, and we want to say that shopping smart means like you're thinking about budget, quality, like the environment, politics. Just to recap, but our first argument is that we should consider like finances when we are making purchases. And why is this important? Because a lot of Americans don't know, but like they can buy the same products for cheaper just with like a coupon or something like that. And that I think that consciousness of when we are buying things to know that like finances are important, those things add up is very important, because the more money that people can save for like the exact same product, the more they can like invest in their family. Like for example, if you go to Safeway and use their digital coupons, like a cob of corn can cost like either $1 or like 20 cents, and I think that makes a big difference over time. And our second argument is on morality, because where you spend your money matters and it makes an impact. We talked about boycotting earlier, which is important because where you spend your money sends a message to those corporations to say that, hey, like if you do something like roll back DEI practice as a person of color, for example, maybe I won't support you anymore, and I won't until you change. And also I think it's important, secondly, to align yourself with your purchases, because it creates like a cognitive dissonance, like when you're like an avid advocate, but then you're supporting a company who does not believe in what you believe. I think that creates like a lot of confusion and like mental health impacts on yourself. And in conclusion, we want to focus on conversation, on like being like this mindset shift, considering like both finances on a practical level, but also morality on a principle level. And we welcome further conversation. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Just to clarify on the second argument about morality, what is the first sub-point there?
The first one is like this idea like boycotting and like where you're spending your money matters, and then second sub-point is going to be on
aligning yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. Okay. We are the negative team, and we thank the affirmative for their opening speech. Today, we are exploring the topic of whether or not Americans value shopping smarter over convenience. Now, why is this topic important? We tell you that like the world is influenced by consuming habits, like by consumers and those who shop and the companies that they shop from. And then we tell you, okay, and then we're going to propose that the focus of our conversation is going to be, again, what the affirmative said, the mindset shift that happens. Specifically, we want to focus on like ethically rather than like financially, and we'll tell you why in a second. And then when we go over terms, we agree with what the affirmative said about value. Smarter just means like being more informed, and then shopping. When we consider shopping, we're going to talk about like all types of shopping. We have two arguments here. Our first argument is going to be about access. So we tell you that like in America, because this topic is specifically on Americans, we tell you that Americans don't actually have that much access to align themselves with the movements that they want to, which the government claims that they should be doing. We tell you that most of the US is not very walkable. There are not very many stores. There are really big monopolies within the US. We tell you that like if you buy a chocolate bar and you try to buy it more sustainably, at the end of the day, you're probably buying it from Nestle. Nestle owns like a lot of the companies that you're probably shopping from. Procter & Gamble. Like, it's really difficult to find the deals that they talk about while also being ethical. And with that, I will pass on to Elijah for our second argument.
So our second argument is kind of something that directly contradicts your guys' second argument, being that our second argument is that even if everybody does start to shop smarter, in America, nothing is really going to change, because we have to look at it from a global scale on where America's politics and where America's ideologies line up. And it's often found that American left is still somewhere closer to the global right than it is a true global left. And Americans in general, as this prompt focuses on, are going to be more right-leaning. We see this with our current presidential election, where we have a Republican president, a right-leaning president, a right-leaning Supreme Court, a right-leaning House, a right-leaning Senate. We have a right-leaning everything. And if we see that this is where Americans lie, we see that if you lean more right, you'll be more willing to lean into stuff like monopolies, mega corporations, companies that aren't as ethically sound as other places. And this is where we say that nothing really changes, because this is going to be focusing on Americans. Should they decide to go into like companies that they follow their beliefs in, if they align themselves with their purchases, that's going to be towards people that support unethical or immoral things on our own moral standards. Companies like Nestle, companies like Procter & Gamble is what these people will be supporting rather than going against. And in conclusion, I'd like to focus this conversation on access to it rather than the morality of it. We welcome further conversation. Challenge speeches.
Yeah. Or if I have anything to add.
Firstly, we thank the negation team for outlining their arguments of accessibility and like feasibility in America. And we do agree that firstly, like the world, especially in America, it's influenced by the, like that we should be looking at how the corporations, individuals, different things are influenced by consuming habits. And we also agree that like America doesn't have a lot of walkable cities, but we don't agree with we don't agree with the idea that because America doesn't have many walkable cities and we have, you know, a less robust public transportation than other countries means that like people won't have the options to access, right? Firstly, like look at the example of Amazon. Amazon is highly accessible to people across America, right? You just open your door, the package is there. And so many people go to Amazon for that accessibility, but Amazon has a lot of issues with like how they treat their workers, where they source like their different products from. But there's alternatives that are the same accessibility to Amazon that people in America can, like consumers in America can turn to. So many people buy books from Amazon, or like Kindle books, but there are so many other like ebook alternatives. There's so many like reusable, like secondhand book alternatives that people can get shipped to their door that are cheaper, that are aligned with people's ethical and moral values. And so yes, like America doesn't have as many walkable cities, and there is struggles with accessibility in America, but that doesn't mean there's not also accessible alternatives that people can look to. Their second point is that I also agree that, you know, not just in America but worldwide, we do have a lot of large corporate monopolies that like dominate certain product markets and like production of certain goods, but that doesn't mean that I believe that no one will turn to shop smarter and find these alternatives because these monopolies exist, right? Yes, there are these large monopolies and corporations that exist in America, but there are still alternatives, and what people do with their purchasing power still makes an impact. You know, Target is a large multilateral corporation that like spans across America, has a lot of influence, has a lot of money. But when they rolled back their DEI policies in the spring, people stopped buying from Target, people started boycotting Target, and that did make a difference. They saw huge drops in their stocks, their prices went down, and you know they tried to roll back these DEI policies because so many people boycotting them. So yes, there are these large corporations, and that can make it harder for certain consumers, but that does not mean that the impact of people having this mindset shift and becoming more aware and making more aware decisions isn't real. And so I think our main issues of disagreement are that you can be more accessible but also have this mindset shift, and that where like if you change your purchasing power, that it does make an impact. That's what we believe. And I think we need to resolve this issue of disagreement. I think we should just talk more about these two individual issues.
Alright, we thank the affirmative for their challenge to our speech, and we're going to move on to some of our own challenges. So firstly, on the affirmative's case about like finances, we tell you that this is a wash. Now I'm getting into like why this is a wash and this doesn't actually matter to the round. Bethany says that like people don't realize how much they could actually be saving by shopping smarter, using coupons, etc. Our response here is that like the time and travel spent for hunting for deals actually negate them. Like you're spending hours trying to cut coupons, you're spending time going from store to store trying to find the best deal. It's actually not very efficient financially because you are spending all of this time and travel, like gas, etc., for a very minute deal. And then on the idea of like boycotting, like morality, second argument about morality, and then like aligning yourself with your purchases, making sure that you only support companies that align with what you believe in, we tell you that this is really, really difficult. Like monopolies have a chokehold on like US goods, especially essential goods like Procter and Gamble. We tell you Nestle, like these corporations probably don't align, or even like Unilever. Like you might support Ben and Jerry's for the activism they do, but when you buy from Ben and Jerry's, you're actually supporting Unilever, which you probably don't support for their poor like workplace practices, etc. So like we tell you this is really difficult in the US. Then Maddie tells us that like on the idea of like access and like walkable cities, etc. She says like sure, the US is like less walkable, but that doesn't make accessibility that much more difficult. Why? Because there's alternatives to Amazon. One, we ask like what are the alternatives? No alternatives have been named. Secondly, she says that there are alternatives that will ship to our door. We tell you that a lot of times like even shipping to your door, like that type of accessibility is bad. People don't believe in like shipping because it's bad for the environment. Then she tells us that like about like secondhand books and like, you know, sustainability by reusing. We tell you the biggest thing here is that like Americans don't necessarily have the best values. Why? Look at like our government. Elijah tells us like looking at all three branches of our government, what are they? Very red. We have like a fascist as our president. So we tell you that Americans don't necessarily make good choices. So meaning that the differences that they claim will happen don't actually happen, because a lot of Americans would side with Procter and Gamble, would side with Nestle, and they don't actually care. So even if that mindset shift does happen, it's not actually creating all these good things that they claim. So we agree, a mindset shift should happen and people ought to be more conscious of the decisions that they make. However, we don't agree that it's going to create all of these good benefits, and we also don't agree that it's going to be as accessible as it is. However, the shift should still happen. And with that, we would like to hear more conversation.
Okay. Can we just start out?
Yeah.
So, okay. So you say like, on the point about like a lot of Americans maybe won't side with like what we're saying because of like kind of this is like the current standing of our government, like the different three branches. But there's also so many Americans who like didn't vote for Donald Trump, who are currently protesting his administration or like the decisions the Supreme Court are making. So yes, like some Americans may not hold those values, but for those who do, shouldn't we still want them to like make smarter choices?
Yes, I agree with that. I do think that like a mindset shift should happen, and like people should make like, you know, the choices that they want to make and align with their beliefs as much as they can. However, I think like our core disagreement is that it's not actually that accessible. Like it's really difficult because yes, you might support Ben and Jerry's and like the founder of Ben and Jerry's, but when you buy Ben and Jerry's, you're not actually supporting them. You're supporting the corporation that bought them out, which is an evil corporation. Secondly, like yes, like a lot of Americans disagree with like the current administration, but the majority of them voted in this election cycle, the majority of American voters voted for that, right? They voted for this leader. So therefore, we tell you that like generally Americans don't make the best choices, and even if they're making more conscious choices, which is a good thing, they can still be supporting bad things in general.
Well, I think it's like if it's so hard to make a good decision in the first place, then on net it would like when you can take all things considered, it will still be better for you to make conscious decisions. And I think, for example, like I understand like America leans like right like on the global scale, right? But like those Republicans aren't necessarily being like, oh, I love Nestle because like or like love their practices of how they poorly treat their workers or how like they used to use like child labor, for example, right? I don't think like Republicans are necessarily like celebrating that. But I think like even if like Americans aren't making the best choices in their shopping habits, like I think more critically thinking about it, being more conscious about it, like decreases bad decisions even if it's by like a little bit.
So the argument would be shopping not smarter, but being more informed about businesses in general.
I think that goes into like being aware and like the mindset shift.
Okay.
To me, those things are analogous.
Because I think with the Ben and Jerry's example, like yes, I do agree. Like some people might like kind of the not activism, but like the beliefs Ben and Jerry has, but they might not know that they're owned by this large corporation that doesn't align with their ideals. But if we want people to become like more aware in general, that might like help people like make that connection.
So is the focus now being more like, okay, yes, you should be aware that like Ben and Jerry actually deviate from their parent corporation, and you should be aware of that, but now like your shopping habits don't matter as much, because we want you to be more aware first before your shopping habits have changed. Is that like kind of what we're getting at? I think that's fine.
Like we're getting that, like, to make these like smarter choices, you have to be more aware, right?
Like critical
Yeah.
about. Okay.
So it's like we want to take steps first before making differences in your shopping habits to make choices and make options to inform everybody, inform Americans about, you know, how things work, rather than so I can influence their shopping habits.
But I think like even if budget is like a smaller thing, like that can still like play into like convenience. And what I mean by that is like even if like we're like any type of like like being smarter about it and like further consideration, I think that's still like good. And I don't think you necessarily like, okay, I need to do the mindset shift first and then I can focus on convenience. But I do agree with the fact that like it's a little bit hard to balance it. Like it's not very accessible in like especially like rural areas. But I think some context I wanted to introduce, not necessarily about our argument was that like when people talk about it, like when people are making purchases, like they are weighing those things to themselves. Like just like something could be cheaper and not as ethical, but like, okay, like what matters more to me like right now. And I think that's what it means to be smart, to be able to do that.
Okay. So like that, just that thought process first.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And make
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Overall, in today's debate, we have explored the following arguments and questions, like this idea on accessibility, like American politics, current events, and how that plays into like finances, as well as like boycotting and aligning your beliefs with how you purchase like certain items. So we covered a lot of ground, but according to our team, we think that we agree that like established consensus that it may not be the most accessible to shop more ethically, and it is at the end of the day still like a very challenging thing to do, and people probably have to weigh their options. Like it's probably very hard to get something very cheap and ethically made, and people probably have to look back at their own values at that point in time and see what is best. And we also agree on like finances is probably a less important part of this discussion as compared to ethics. But what I do want to talk about is our disagreement still on this idea of like American like politics. I think our opposing team believes that because of like the beliefs that Americans have, that's probably more leaning right. They're probably going to support these corporations and these monopolies. But we disagree. We think that, you know, critically thinking, like it's still better to be smart than to choose whatever's convenient, because what is already the most convenient is those corporations. So if we think more critically about them, then we are at least creating some type of change, and we do see tangible change when we boycott, for example, Starbucks or Target. We see their stocks drop and they're losing business and closing stores. Like that makes a difference, because I think money communicates the most strongly to those corporations. So to move this conversation forward, we suggest the following steps to further examining like the value of just like making that mindset shift. And these next steps I think will result in the benefits of people being more conscious, even if like the tangible impact is a bit smaller. And in conclusion, our stance started out as it is very important to start smarter, because you can align your beliefs with your values and you can get it cheap. And now it has become more nuanced, where even though we can't achieve everything, being smarter is still a good thing, because it's just better for ourselves and also better for the issues we care about.
Okay, overall in today's debate, we explored arguments and questions pertaining mostly and most importantly to the morality of consumerism, and our side saying that American politics in general make things so that it won't change. And according to our team, we agree on most of everything, such as where to go to start shopping smarter, how shopping smarter is important in terms of aligning yourself with your beliefs, and we believe that that is something you should do. Our main issue comes with the convenience part, in the fact that it's not always convenient or it's not accessible enough to go shop smarter at most times. And that's not something that is easily done in America because of the large existence and large presence of mega corporations and monopolies. But to move forward with this conversation, I suggest that we begin to focus it purely on starting in our common ground, which is that we still both believe that a mindset shift should happen, and we do both believe that we should shop aligning with our beliefs. So I think if we start first, as we said in our group discussion, finding, informing the American people on the practices of these companies, like informing people that Ben & Jerry's is owned by Unilever, which is not necessarily ethical and won't align with somebody's morals, as well as letting people decide for themselves whether or not they still want to support these companies or not. I figure if we start there, we'll find the following benefits: that we can find more common ground, and we will find people start to shop smarter. And then we also do need to establish the fact that even if it doesn't align with you, you still need to find a way to get your essentials. So at some point, your convenience needs to take precedent over how smart you want to shop. In conclusion, our stance started out as convenience being more heavily favored to shopping smarter because we believe that shopping smarter won't really change much. And now we're able to figure out that shopping smarter will have tangible change, but it needs to start with informing people first, and we can't just go to telling people to shop smarter. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys. Great combo.
Thank you.
Thank you.